What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Monday Night Football pre-lock show. I'm your host, Head Chopper. Going to be joined by Squirrel Patrol here in just a minute, and we're going to walk you through, for the next 30 minutes or so, going to walk you through the Monday Night Football Showdown show and whatever else you want to talk about. I got into the Halloween candy, so I need to swallow this Jolly Rancher real quick, but in the meantime, I'm going to let Squirrel Patrol take over here and introduce himself. Squirrel, how you doing on a Monday? I mean, you late swapping in the NBA right before the show. I just realized I forgot to set my NFL lineup, so I'm gonna do that in a minute. But how you doing, man, on the day before Halloween?
Good, and yeah, sports equinox, right? Like I think it's the only time in the year with hockey, football, baseball, and basketball. So yeah, it's a good night, a busy night. Had a lot of Brandon Ingram, so trying to figure out who Jordan Hawkins is. But yeah, hopefully if you guys are doing NBA and NFL, you got everything squared away.
Yeah, squared away, man, and we're gonna walk you through it. This is a viewer-driven show, so any questions, please fire them off in chat, and we'll answer them all. Walk you through what everyone. I mean, I want to talk about anything you want to talk about. Let's just get the elephant out of the room real quick. Talk about him and address him. Squirrel, are you a big Halloween guy?
I think more so than I used to be. My daughter's like 7 now, so that's like kind of prime Halloween age. So she's going as Barbie. I got like a I'm Knuff shirt that I'm going to be wearing from the movie. So yeah, I think you get back more into it like once you have kids. Kind of goes through a lull. Like in college, it's great. Then you kind of get married, don't really care. Then you have a kid, and you start like dressing the kid up when they're a baby or whatever. And then it's like they start to like have opinions about their own costumes and stuff. But like, hey, the candy's never bad. So,
all right. I can definitely get behind the for the kids deal that you're talking about. It's definitely for the kids. It's definitely something you create some memories when they're younger and stuff. But as an adult, are you dressing up tomorrow?
I got like the I'm Knuff sweatshirt from the Barbie movie, and that's it. That's my costume because my daughter's Barbie. So didn't have to think too much. Just got a sweatshirt off Amazon, like little hoodie. It's got pockets, so if it's cold, I should be set. And yeah, just walk around, get some candy.
All right, I can get behind that, man. It's just the it's just the adults who dressing up with other adults goofing around. That's a little bit much, guys. But listen, I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing all your questions. I'm going to monitor them all, and we will answer them all definitely at some point. Real quick, let's get to the inactives because that's the beauty of this show. We get to see the inactives. Detroit missing obviously David Montgomery. We knew that was coming. He's out. And we'll talk about Jahmyr Gibbs in a little bit and whatever else might happen, Craig Reynolds, whatever. But they're also missing some offensive linemen. I see Jonah Jackson's out. I see Frank Ragnow is inactive today. So offensive line taking a bit of a hit there. For the Raiders, let's see. Hoyer, who cares? James McCourt, the kicker. Okay, I guess their other kicker is active, that means, so that's good. I'm not seeing a lot on the Raider side. Does anything from those inactives jump out to you?
No, nothing unexpected. I was like a little bit starting to get worried about Monroe St. Brown. So I'm glad he's in. But yeah, no real surprises there.
All right. Then with that being said, let's see what we got. Our boy Big Hurt, always in chat. He's a FanDuel guy. Large field, single entry, GPP. He's got, all this stuff. He wants to cover it all. So let's talk about FanDuel real quick. GPP, large field. Who's your favorite MVP?
See, so super large field. I guess, like honestly, it's so hard to get different on FanDuel. I'd probably go Jahmyr Gibbs. Like I don't think he's going to be like off the radar, but I think sometimes you can get like 2 off the radar with FanDuel. Like if in FanDuel, like if you've got the guy in the MVP, like he's got to, or if you don't have the guy in the MVP, like if he gets a high score, like he needs to be the MVP. There's no salary multiplier. There's no reason not to have him in the MVP spot if you think he's going to be like a high score. So like I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I guess we've got him as like the highest owned MVP. I don't know if that'll be the case. I think like the quarterbacks generally get like a pretty good amount. But yeah, I'd go Gibbs and try to get different elsewhere.
Okay, let's see what else we got. Oh, Jamino is in chat. He's got a Halloween question for you. Michael Meyer on Halloween. I would say Michael Meyer is one of the better what are they called? Not a villain, but in a horror movie, the guy in the horror movie, whatever that's called. He's one of the better ones just by appearance and scariness. The guy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre was really, really, that's a rough one when you're growing up. Jason from Friday the 13th. Michael Myers is up there, but that mask, the Michael Myers mask, is kind of played out now. Everybody's got a Michael Myers mask, and Michael Mayer is the tight end for the Raiders tonight, so that's interesting. But what do you think about rank your three favorite horror movie like antagonists?
Oh man, I thought you were going rank 3 favorite like FanDuel MVP.
No, man. I'm letting some questions build up, but like, do you watch the Saw? Have you seen the Saw movies lately? Like, that's the recent stuff that's really kind of creepy and pretty good stuff. What about the guy from Saw? Maybe I don't know. I don't know if you're old enough to watch some of the older stuff, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, stuff like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen like the most recent Saws. Like I think I saw the first one and then like just kind of dropped off. They all kind of run together. Like I don't know that I get so into the horror genre that I like have a ranking of like the antagonist, right? Oh man, what was the movie with the Ring? The long-haired girl in the well, where the TV just turned to static. Whatever movie that was, probably talking like 20 years ago.
We need the chat's help on that one. I think I know what you're talking about, but I have no name for it. We need the chat's help on that one.
Yeah. Pretty sure. Yeah, it was The Ring.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, all right. That's right up your. Are you a scary movie guy, or do you prefer not to mess with that stuff?
Not particularly. Yeah, I don't know. Like scary enough. I like comedies probably, and then just mostly watching sports anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't. I think I saw one too many when I was younger, and it just like freaked me out. I don't want to watch that no more. There ain't no real value in that. All right. Victor Alicia is in the chat. He says, how about having no quarterback in your lineups tonight? Ooh, that's a tough one for me, but what do you think?
That's an interesting one. I think I'm a little bit down on the passing games in general on this one. Like, so I like the running backs. Like, neither quarterback is a little tough. You got to figure out where you'd be spending your salary. Because I don't like going like dropping down like huge amount of salary. I don't mind like skipping a quarterback. I don't know if I would skip both of them. Like just raw points, one of them probably going to end up there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, you can get different in a lot of different ways. You don't have to be like so totally off the radar, man, that you sink your own ship, basically. So let me see here. We got some, Poltergeist. That's one that was kind of freaky when I was younger for sure. But let's see here. I saw one from about candy a minute ago in the chat. Oh, the Kit Kats. I heard the Kit Kats and minis at the house. What kind of preferred Halloween candy is in the Squirrel Patrol household?
I have a strong preference for like the chocolate, like caramel mixes.
Yes.
So, like, kind of Twix, like Snickers, Milky Way is a good one. Anything like any kind of chocolate caramel mix. And I got the same way with like Sunday toppings too, like the hot fudge, like the caramel. Everything else is extraneous.
I'm a huge chocolate and peanut butter guy. Mix those things together, and I'll eat it all up, man. Kit Kats, Reese's Pieces, all of it. I'll even go for the little Hershey's Kisses are fine too. No peanut butter in there, but it's chocolate. I stay away from too much of the candy, just the fruity stuff. I'm pass on all that, but big chocolate and peanut butter guy. Steven Pereira. Sorry if I got that wrong. He says GPP plays Jameson Williams. Man, did you see my video this morning, Mr. Pereira? Because I'm a fan of Jameson Williams tonight. I'll let Squirrel hit on that one first. Jameson Williams' thoughts.
So there's a possibility he gets more snaps. I think I'm like Amon-Ra, his issue was illness. And so if they get up big, I mean, I'm more of a Jahmyr Gibbs guy, just for tonight's game. And going forward too. But I do think there's a thought maybe Amon-Ra is a little bit limited. Let's say they get up big, like maybe they're not like pressing him out there if he's got the flu or whatever. And they're probably looking to get Jameson Williams more involved. So I don't mind that call at all. More of a fan of the rushing games, but yeah, I think like Jameson Williams is a good call. I don't think he's going to be like super sneaky. Just a warning. Like I think people know, like people have been kind of playing him throughout the year as he, since he came back. But yeah, I think he can go there.
Let me see here. Let's take a look at his ownership real quick. I'm looking at DraftKings, sorting down the lineup HQ and looking for Jameson Williams. And having hard. That's not bad. About 12.5% on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's probably going to be lower than that, I would imagine. Yeah, about 8%. Yeah, I kind of like him. I do like him. Now, he's not like top of the charts on, pecking order in his offense, but the snap percentage was the same last week as it was the first week. All right, so he didn't play that many snaps, but he ran a lot more routes. And obviously his MO is getting down the field and hitting the home run plays. I had some stats earlier. I don't know if I remember them, but this defense, the Vegas defense, they've given up some bigger plays, longer plays in the passing game. A couple of 70-yarders this year, 50-yarder, a couple of 40-yarders, 40-plus. So they've given up some big plays. All you need is one at this salary to do yourself justice, and at this ownership you could really do. And if it's one of those games where, touchdowns are kind of at a premium, if you get one from this guy, he could be really good. So I kind of like Jameson Williams just to be a little bit different off of some of the other stuff. But Barry Pullman's up in chat. He says, other super punts on the radar for DraftKings besides Trey Tucker. You could talk about Trey Tucker and then whatever else you see out there for a punt that, anybody in that, everybody loves a good $200 punt, man. You see anything out there like that?
Yeah, let me take a look at the $200 punts. Just a warning, I think like sometimes these guys are played a little bit more than they really hit. Like Hunter Renfrow is only 1,200. Like that's pretty cheap. Don't mind like Austin Hooper either if you can like find the extra 600. Like still got a couple targets every game. Like I know Michael Mayer's coming on, but you just never know who's going to go in and get that touchdown. In terms of like other $200 guys, like maybe Jacob Johnson again, like the fullback. You never know when they're going to get like that call at the goal line. It's tough with the $200 guys, and it's actually like pretty thin, even for the $200 guys, more so than it usually is.
Yeah, I can get behind all that. Sometimes you just kind of you force it in there, and it's just not, and it ruins you, and you didn't really have to force it. And sometimes we look at these after the fact, go back and do a little recon and look at the showdown winners, and it's kind of just right there. It's so simple, and it wasn't going crazy on a $200 guy, and you think, man, these were all guys in my player pool. Why didn't I just do that instead of wasting my lineups on, Jesper Horsted and things like that? But I don't know.
I think the same way. I mean, I think you got to remember you're costing yourself not just salary, but a roster spot too. And like when you look at these like winning lineups, it's usually 10 points in at least every single roster spot. You're even when it's the kicker, the defense, like they got to kind of put up 10 points. So you want to be thinking about that. Like even if the fullback, he's 200, he gets that touchdown, like that's going to be by far his best game of the year so far. Like that's only 6 points. And there's a good chance other people are getting more than 6 from that roster spot. Unless all of the high-priced guys are just going absolutely berserk.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the first thing you have to do on a showdown slate is identify on DraftKings the captain. On FanDuel the MVP, but it's just different. It's just different over there because of the salary and all that. But let's think about the captain for a minute. Like that's the number one priority. If there's a guy who's going to be the higher scorer in the game, especially if a guy who's sitting in the mid-range in salary and not all that popular, getting him in there is just infinitely more valuable than finding a $200 guy that's going to get you 5 points, right?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of which, I think this is a really good like mid-range build slate. It's kind of depending on how you define the mid-range, but I actually like kind of dropping down from some of the more expensive guys. I think like Jahmyr Gibbs is is really underpriced at 8,600. Like Josh Jacobs is really underpriced for 8,400. I mean, this is that's really cheap for Josh Jacobs on a showdown slate. And Jacoby Myers as well. Like I'm big, I put it in the expert survey, but the price gap between Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, I think on both sites is too big. I mean, these guys have basically almost been the equivalent this year. So kind of big on Jacoby Myers over Devontae Adams.
So you're the big numbers guy, looking at the numbers instead of the feel guy who says, "Oh man, it's got to be Adams." Eventually, he's been the guy for his whole career. He's got to be that guy. You're a big numbers guy, right?
Sure. I mean, it depends. I think you got to have a feel for both. But yeah.
All right, Jamino, he says, should he? Well, we kind of already talked about these guys, but he says, should he play Hunter Renfrow or Trey Tucker, or should he just unregister and watch Hubie Halloween again? I don't know about Hubie Halloween, but I think I might unregister and watch some sort of movie. But Hunter Renfrow or Trey Tucker, or would you just bypass them both and watch a movie tonight?
I'd do the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance both of those guys are putting up zeros. I mean, Hunter Renfrow would be the more appealing choice, but this offense has been so concentrated. I'd go with Renfrow. I don't know. What do the Sims say?
What do the Sims say? That's a good question. I needed to check the Sims before the show, but I didn't have time. I mean, head spinning, man. You got NBA late scratches. You got MLB starting in 3 minutes. So you get a little showdown there. If you're into pucks, the pucks hockey's on tonight. A full slate, a big one. And, of course, this showdown. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. But, hey, listen, I tell you what. I just watched I don't know why, because my kids had mentioned it. So I was like, let's watch it. Let's watch it. Last night we just watched that Five Nights at Freddy's. It's on Peacock now. It's kind of a semi-scary movie, but not really. Yeah, it wasn't particularly good. I get why a kid, of that age might find it appealing, but not for the adults. I don't think it's not that good, but whatever. Yeah, movies are good though, man. I like a good movie. All right. Mr. Saucedo, he says chocolate plus caramel plus popcorn squares. I can get behind that. I can get behind. Do you ever get that? You ever get that gifted, that big bucket of popcorn? It's like split into three. It's like one regular flavor, one caramel flavor, and one whatever other flavor. You ever get one of those?
Yeah. I tear through the caramel, like that little triangle gone in a second.
Yeah. What's the deal with throwing the regular popcorn? Who wants the regular stale? It's all stale and everything. Just
give me a tin of the caramel.
Yeah, just load it up with the good flavored popcorn, man. Oh, the third tin, the third piece of the triangle is like cheesy popcorn, like some kind of cheesy popcorn. Yeah, just load it up with the caramel. It's basically just Cracker Jacks, right? A big amount of Cracker Jacks, which were awesome when I was a kid. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Need more questions, guys. We got about 13 minutes left until kickoff. We'll duck out of here a little bit early if I ain't getting no questions. But in a few minutes, we'll start talking about our boy's not here. Mr. Jenkins isn't here, but our Plums play of the night. We'll talk about that here shortly. But we got about 13 minutes. Going to see if we can't wrestle up some more questions. Dusty Norton, Adams lower owned than Myers tonight. I'll take Adams all day. I don't know. I didn't look at that. Is Adams lower owned than Myers tonight?
I'd be surprised by that. But I mean, if
35,
if you're
they're about the same. They're about the same on DraftKings, it looks like.
Yeah, I think people underestimate salary sometimes. And it's always tempting to go for the guy that's put up huge numbers in the past. Like there is a big price difference. It's particularly on DraftKings where they're only getting a half point per reception anyway. I think the name value of Devontae Adams is going to get a lot of ownership. So I'd be surprised if Jacoby Myers is lower owned. But you can do a lot more with the rest of your lineup if you've got Jacoby Myers there.
On FanDuel, in a GPP, would you fade both quarterbacks? Oh, that one's on FanDuel. I would say on FanDuel, for me, absolutely not. I'm not fading both on FanDuel. No way, no how. There's no upside there, but I'll let Squirrel answer that one also.
Yeah, it's really tough because it's so raw points driven. So I would not fade both quarterbacks. Definitely one of them can end up getting priced off. This is probably not that slate because the quarterbacks are not the most expensive guys. I mean, I would say maybe go without Goff because he's more expensive. Like Garoppolo is only 11,500 on FanDuel. Like his chances of getting priced off just aren't that high.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's no the salary cap thing isn't as big of a deal. There's no implication for the MVP spot. Lineups are usually easier to make over there. So then you got 5 spots. What are the odds that both quarterbacks end up not being in the top 5? Like what other 5-man combination, if we're not worried about salary, what other 5-man combination could possibly hit with no quarterbacks? 2 running backs, okay. But then what? Like 2 wide receivers or something? Like at some point a quarterback probably sneaks in there. And like if you're looking to try to be different, FanDuel's probably not the site you want to be at. DraftKings is much easier to be different and be a little bit more unique. And even that depends on how the game plays out. You just never know how the game plays out. All right, let's see here. Brian Marshall, DKGPPs, Detroit defense, are they going to come back with a vengeance this week after that blowout last week to, I believe it was Baltimore? Man, they got whooped up on. What do you think about the Detroit defense tonight? And do you buy into any narrative like that? I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that one.
I think they're obviously better than the game against Baltimore. Like they were looking like a really good defense going into that game, and fell apart. That happens to teams in the NFL. It's a 17-week season. They're on the road in Baltimore. Like I think they're a much tougher team at home. So I don't I think they're going to do well tonight. I do like Raiders. I do like the idea of maybe even being overweight the Raiders, just thinking they can pile up receptions. So if they're down, as long as it's not like a blowout, then a lot of Raiders can be very useful in terms of fantasy. So and I'm particularly thinking like the prices on Josh Jacobs and Jacoby Myers are pretty good. So yeah, I would think that Detroit's probably going to look pretty good here. But don't take that to mean you need to have like a 5-1 like Raiders like onslaught build or whatever, or 5-1 like Detroit onslaught.
All right, we got about 10 minutes left here. Let's go ahead and do the plums play tonight, just in case it influences anybody and they want to throw a lineup in there real quick or change up a lineup. I'm going to turn the floor over to you to get your plums play of the night first. Squirrel, have at it.
So my big plums play would be Jahmyr Gibbs. Like I think this could be like a breakout game for him. No David Montgomery. They're at home. They're the favorite team, up big by touchdown. Favored by touchdown. So Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy that I would make sure I've got in my lineups, or make sure I've gotten the majority of my lineups if I'm multi-entering. If you want somebody like a little bit more off the board, then Jacoby Myers. I think Jacoby Myers outscores Devontae Adams yet again tonight at a lower price, and I think probably lower ownership.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I think you mentioned it earlier, but you said you're kind of more on the running backs tonight than passing game. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think so. I think it could be a game that goes under the total.
Okay.
And in particular, I think if Detroit, just scores a couple of touchdowns, and if the Raiders aren't matching quickly, I think they'll just be giving the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Craig Reynolds is maybe a little bit of a sneaky play. I wouldn't necessarily avoid getting on the lineup. I think he's 3,200 on DraftKings. So that kind of fits in maybe to that narrative that I'm talking about. So yeah, I think you could go, but like Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is the guy that is my plums play of the day.
Okay, well then, with that being said, I think that kind of fits the mold of the guy I'm going with. Okay, so if it's a running game and under the total, that means we're limiting our touchdowns, we're limiting our possessions. Everything counts. It matters so much more than a 38-35 game where a bunch of guys are scoring 20 plus. So with that game script in mind, now this is relative to ownership and salary. Not my prediction for the highest scoring guy, relative to ownership and salary. I'm going with the Jameson Williams call. I'm sticking with it. I like him because one big play could land him in the optimal tonight. The Raiders are not bad on defense in the secondary. They're not. They've had some porous games, but in general, I've seen them play. They're not bad. So I don't think it's just going to be a cherry pick for Jared Goff all over the field wherever he wants to go. I think he's going to have to find matchups tonight. I think he'll find it in Jameson Williams once, take a couple shots. I just need one to land. So I'm going Jameson Williams, my plums play of the night. He's in my DraftKings lineup, some of them tonight, not all of them, but we'll see how it plays out. But guys, I need some more questions because we got about 7 minutes left. We're going to duck out of here in a little bit if we don't get any more questions. Favorite contrarian flex on FanDuel in a large field. Contrarian on FanDuel, large field.
Sure. Somebody that we haven't mentioned yet, and again, it's not super contrarian, but Sam Laporta is a guy I think who get a little more receptions. Of like Monroe's feeling a little bit under the weather. Maybe like a Sam Laporta for like a red zone touchdown.
The flu bug or whatever it is going around the NFL. A lot of guys feeling terrible. A lot of guys have being questionable this week, and we saw Mahomes played absolutely terrible yesterday after being added to the injury report with those flu-like symptoms here on Saturday night. So it's a thing, man. Contrarian on FanDuel, I'm gonna go that question also, and I'm gonna say just looking right offhand, like Craig Reynolds, super low ownership, super leverage off of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, what if they get inside the 5-yard line and they start feeding Craig Reynolds and not Jahmyr Gibbs? There's your leverage right there. So that'd be my contrarian on FanDuel. Sam Laporta, yeah, we just talked about him a little bit. Cookie crumble cookies. Have you ever had a cookie crumble? I don't think I've ever had one of those.
Yeah, like crumble cookies. I think there's no E, but yeah, they just opened one near my house. It's like walking distance. So.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard of that or had one of those. But I'm trying to cut down on sweet. Man, the sugar is it's awful for you. You got to be careful with that. They try to shove too much sugar down our throats these days, guys. It's not good. Be careful with all that sugar. But it is Halloween, so
yeah, it's
get you one. Yeah, well, a couple times a year you can mess with it, but I don't know. Anyways, all right, guys, let's see here. About 5 minutes left. I need some more questions. If I can't get questions, we're going to jump out of here. But I think we've covered the bases pretty well here. So we might just get out of here anyway. Real quick, we had a close call on the kicker tonight. I think it was Daniel Carlson. Was he questionable or something? Somebody was questionable. I don't know. Kid, what do you think about the kickers tonight? How you playing that out?
I think, you can go there. You can always go there. There's nothing in particular about the kickers that I love tonight. I think I've said it before. This game's kind of in the mid range of totals, and I like the kickers in actually like super high scoring games where the guys are really expensive, because then sometimes the kicker is just the guy that like makes everybody else fit. They can get to 12, 15 points in a high scoring game even, or like the kickers in really low scoring games. It's going to be like a 36-point total or something. We're expecting like a 19-17 game, something like that. Then the kickers, if they hit 3 field goals, that might be one of the highest scorers of the nights. Like the mid-range games, I don't particularly love the kickers. I just think, and there's guys that are way underpriced, like Josh Jacobs, Jacoby Myers. Like these guys are going to be putting up points, and they're not like 12,000. They're in the 8,500 or so range. So the kickers are always fine. I don't love them tonight more than anything.
Do you ever bump up a kicker because he's playing in a dome? Do you his environment, or is it just strictly team totals, game totals, and how you see the script going?
Yeah, I think you can look at there's some kicker projections out there. It's really hard to predict. Dome should help a little bit, and the dome doesn't just help like the kicking. It might help a coach's perception of like they're at the 40-yard line, they're at the 38-yard line or something. And they might think, well, it's a dome. I can kick the field goal here rather than punting it or going forward on 4th and 4 or whatever. So they might get more opportunities for a kick indoors. So yeah, it helps a little bit.
Luis Nunn, Jimmy Garoppolo should be the starting quarterback for the Raiders tonight. If he's not, then there's going to be a lot of dead money out there. So it should be Jimmy Garoppolo. Gibbs in captain, but Reynolds in flex on DraftKings 3 max. Would you do that?
I think you can do it. You're kind of banking on a touchdown from Craig Reynolds, but it's possible. I'd do that maybe like so it's a 3 max, like super large field. I think you can do that.
I think there's I think you can do it because you're banking on a particular game script for Detroit, and it makes sense if the rest of your team makes sense around them that they get it done on the ground tonight, and some of the passing game comes from Jahmyr Gibbs too. So I get that. I don't mind that at all. DK fading DK GPP. Would you consider fading both Amon-Ra and Devontae Adams? I think so, but I'll let Squirrel answer that too.
I mean, that's kind of what I've been alluding to. I wouldn't I'm not doing my 150 tonight just because the basketball got too crazy. But I think you can do that because they're really expensive. So there's just a pretty good chance that the other guys are scoring close to them or outscoring them at thousands cheaper. So I think that's totally okay. I'm maybe leaning more towards that.
And in case you guys haven't realized or haven't heard, we do have a new sim tool here on DraftKings Fantasy Lab / you got to look at some of the links that are all over the Discord and stuff and get into it and check it out. But Jovan has a question. He used the new sim tool and he got Josh Jacobs in the captain, Amon-Ra, Goff, Gibbs, Meyer, and Reynolds. How would I grade this and should you go with it? I would say if it spit it out to you, and you got this thing somewhat relatively closer to kickoff where they inputted all the information from after inactives, absolutely go with it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's a bad roster because I don't like Josh Jacobs. I'm not a computer, man. A computer knows more than I do. If that's what that computer spit out, all those players are playing, they're all viable. It makes sense. I look at it now and I'm saying, okay, he's got Josh Jacobs in the captain. A lot of people that are going to play Jahmyr Gibbs are going to want Jahmyr Gibbs in captain or Jared Goff. So, it's a little bit different, but everybody's viable in that lineup. I say absolutely that thing makes sense. But have you tried the new Sims tool?
I've played around with it a little bit. I actually played around with it last week when it was behind the scenes. And I've been writing a UFC article and an NFL article. So a UFC article almost feels like since the summertime on some of the optimal rates and stuff like that. And then this season I've been writing a top stacks where I compare quarterbacks to their optimal rates. So I've been looking at the optimal outputs and stuff like that. And then played around with it a little bit, generating lineups last week.
Well, Squirrel, we've hit 000, so the game is going to kick off in a minute. Lineups are locked. Can't even do nothing, even if we wanted to answer more questions. So, guys, we appreciate you coming by and firing off those questions. Again, we are going to be back on Thursday doing some more showdown stuff. So, come on back, man. Ask the questions. Let's have a little fun. We'll give a little Halloween wrap-up, too, man, on Thursday and see how everything went. And until next time, guys, that's Squirrel Patrol. I was your host, Chop. Steve was back behind the scenes, firing up all the gifts for us and screen share. Till Thursday, good luck on those GPPs. We are out of here.